actually getting ready to do a pipe burst. I'm going to go over a few steps before we actually start pipe bursting. Our first step, number one, we're actually going to be doing what's a fusing process. A fusing process actually consists of a generator, our fuser, then our contraption here that actually holds the pipe together, keeps the pipe completely perfect straight. We go in with the cutter, we cut the pipe, make sure both ends are flush 100%, and after we do that trim, we put the heater in. The heater is actually a process called fusing. So basically what it does, it melts the HDPE 17 down to a point where we can actually bond it back together. So it chemically breaks it down, bonds it, and makes it stronger than actually the pipe it is. So these few steps I'm getting ready to show you, it's actually going to be self-explanatory. But again, this is the first step of pipe bursting. This is the process of cutting the pipe and fusing the pipe. Further ado, I'm going to have a video showing this.
How are we doing, folks? Alright, so what we're doing here is we are breaking through the basement floor. We're accessing where the pipe actually goes through the foundation wall right here and goes and turns and then goes out towards the front, towards the main. What we've got to do is we've got to break the concrete out and get ourselves enough room here to where that we can get our new pipe to slide down into the hole so it doesn't move and go up and down. We'll get it all broke out and we'll pull this clean out that's right here. Once we get this all exposed and everything broke out, then we'll shove the cable through the line. We'll come back for that part.
Folks, you just saw the gentleman downstairs in the basement. He's actually making the access in the basement so we can pull the line from outside to inside. That is actually step 2. I'm actually continuing still here, actually fusing. This step is a waiting time. The first step, as I explained, we're going to trim the pipe. Then we're going to put the heater in, and we're going to allow it to fuse. There is times between those periods. So there's 2 minutes to heat, and there's 20 minutes per each fuse. So we have about 10 minutes. I can start the next section. I'll actually bring the video and following this one, which is going to be step 3, is actually going to be excavating. I'll show you here. That is the excavator. Folks, what are our phase 3 here? We're going to get ready to prep to start excavating and dig down to our exit point where we're going to be pulling from inside to outside. And before we do that, I'm going to be hand digging because we have a couple utility lines that we need to find here before obviously start excavating. So we got a power line and we have an AT&T or some kind of cable line. So I'm going to show you that process.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so you've seen a successful pipe burst now. You've seen every step that we've done, all the way from starting with...
Actually for seaming the pipe. So actually I did a video, you guys see me, where I actually talked to you for a little bit and did a time lapse. So the first step was we need to cut and fuse the pipe. I fused 80 feet together. So we did that in steps. The second phase was we came outside and we dug our first pit out here. This out here is where we actually pulled the pipe to. Right here, it was about 10 feet deep, and we accessed the 4-inch cast iron pipe all the way at the bottom of our ditch. After we break out the pipe, we then put a section into the tap. That was the very beginning. That's where your line connects onto the city. And we broke a little farther up to where we could set up our bursting equipment. We then went inside and we actually broke up the concrete. That part is you got to make access inside the drain where you're going to be pulling from. So we took the 80-foot section of pipe, you know, we took it around the house because we had a window that was accessible for this situation. Every application is different. But with this window, the house, with the depth of it, it actually was able to take the 80 feet, run across to actually the basement floor to start pulling. That puller consists of two things. It's got a pre-burster, then it's got a pulling head. Now on this hole here that we actually dug, when you guys see this on, you know, the time lapse, we dug this wide. We made this very safe. So I know you probably saw us down in here, but we don't get in a narrow hole. We actually get in a very wide hole. But that phase of actually having the pipe through the window, then we actually put up our pulling and our pipe burst equipment, and then from that point, then what we do is we actually have a hydraulic pump that works a mechanism that actually draws the cable with that bursting head and pre-burster on it. It also has your brand new pipe attached to the back end of that bursting head. Each pull pulls and it simultaneously breaks the pipe and pulls that new pipe behind it. That's why they call that pipe bursting. Correct. So after we pull everything all the way out, all 80 feet, once all 80 feet is in the hole, we have a pipe hanging out of one end and a pipe hanging out the other end. What we then do is we cut off all of our excess pieces, and then we actually tie the two lines back together. So from this point here, we actually went all the way down the main to the tap, connected to the city tap, and then came back up and connected on the back side of the pull line where we stopped. So we can't pull the whole diameter of the hole. We could pull because we're actually setting up all of our blocks to get the two heads through, and that's all we need. And then James goes inside, and this one was a little bit more difficult. On this one, this particular house, the line actually came out the side of the house and then made an immediate 90-degree turn. Those make things a little bit more difficult when we're tying everything back together underneath the floor. So what we have to do is we have to use couplings and elbows in order to get the angle right to where it'll all line up and everything will flow properly. Once we get that all hooked back up, we bed it in rock and we get everything all nice and situated and tightly bedded. And then we put all the excess dirt that we took out of the hole back in, and then we pour the concrete back to what your level floor was inside the basement. Once we're done with that, we sweep up all the excess material and we bucket it out, take all of our tools out, and the basement is complete. Everything, you can hardly tell we've been there other than a little patch of concrete. Then we come back outside and we start backfilling. So before we backfill, obviously we pick up all of our equipment. So put all of our pipe burst equipment back in the van, get our site, you know, clear of material and whatnot. Then we backfill. And then when we backfill, we actually fill the dirt back as best as possible. Okay, get it where, you know, where it doesn't settle and have a hole, but we do like to put a little small mound here. So in 6 months, this ground's going to naturally settle because it's a 10-foot hole. So, and that concludes our final steps. Like I said, that's what a pipe burst looks like from beginning to end. We thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, you can always email us at sales@B&L Plumbing Services Inc.com.